Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Museum Immersion Online with the Lowell Area Historical Museum. This program is called Lowell Biographies, and the first thing I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what is a biography. So in this program, we learn that a biography is the story or history of an individual person. And so every person has a story to tell, and here at the Lowell Area Historical Museum, we collect the stories of people who shaped the history of Lowell. Today we're going to learn about two of those people and see some of the artifacts in our collection that are related to those people and see how those artifacts help us to tell their story in exhibits. The first person we're going to talk about, you've already met in the fur trade exhibit. This is John Hooker, and he came to Lowell as a teenager at about 16 and worked in the fur trade. He was involved with helping to run Daniel Marzak's trading post and was also very involved with the local Odawa here in the Lowell area. So one of the artifacts that we have from John Hooker is actually a sketch that he did of the Daniel Marzak trading post. Now, this is the only image we have of this trading post. There are no pictures that exist. There was an archaeological dig done, which has given us some information about the post, but no images that we can share with people to give them a sense of what the trading post looked like. Toward the end of his life, Daniel Marzak created a series of sketches of local fur trade posts as he remembered them from his childhood. So this is the picture of the post that was Daniel Marzak's and was the post that John Hooker actually worked in. You can see it's a relatively small building. There's a fireplace, there's a door and a window. It's built out of logs. And this would have been located where the Flat and the Grand River connect. So this is a very valuable piece of information that tells us a little bit about John Hooker and where he worked as a youngster, as a teenager, but also about Lowell history and the fur trade and what types of buildings people were living in at this time in Michigan in the Lowell area. Another item that we have, which is very interesting of John Hooker's, is this letter. And this is a letter, I'll try not to get any reflection on it, that he dictated at the end of his life that tells about the Daniel Marzak cabin and the fur trade associated with it. So this is a document that contains the memories of John Hooker as he remembered them toward the end of his life about the fur trade cabin. Now, we know there are a few things in this letter that are not quite correct, but for the most part, we know that what he remembers here is a lot of how the cabin looked and how events of that time were playing out. So items like this in the collection really help to give us a sense of the people involved in Lowell's history. John Hooker was one of those really early pioneers that lived here, and the story of his life really is the story of the unfolding of the history of early Lowell. He came here when there were only a few buildings in Lowell. There was just a little footbridge across the Flat River. He and his family helped to build the first frame house here in Lowell. They built the first flour mill. They were kind of pioneers in building a lot of the early buildings and organizations here in Lowell. And then John went on to live his entire life here. So he really was an instrumental person in how Lowell developed from his teenage years throughout the rest of his life. We do have a couple of other items on exhibit from John Hooker that I wanted to show you as well. We have, you can see down here his Sunday school hymn book that was presented to him by his Sunday school teacher in 1848. We have a couple other items, including some baby clothes from his family. And these are all on display in the early history gallery here at the Lowell Area Historical Museum. So sometimes the artifacts associated with people give us information about them and about their life here in Lowell. The next person that I want to introduce you to in our Lowell Biographies series is a man named John Croft. And this is a picture of him. We've got John Croft. He came to Lowell and he was actually born in Germany in 1828. And his job, he trained as a young man to be a cabinet maker, which means somebody who makes furniture for a living. He arrived here in Lowell in 1854. He stopped first in New York, and while he was there, he married a woman named Mary Jane Lang. He was 26, and she was 21, and then they moved to Lowell along with her family. They built a small cabinet shop, or like a furniture factory, and they began making furniture. They lived along the Grand River, and there was a creek that flowed across their property into the Grand River, which was later named Coff's Creek after them. And they used water power from that creek to help power the machines that they needed to make furniture. I'm going to show you here a picture we have in the collection. This is their home and furniture factory. So you can see it was quite a large operation. The house is still standing. Here's the house. And there they are sitting by the porch. He was particularly well known for making chairs, and at one point when they were sort of at their peak of production, they made almost 20,000 chairs in this factory every year. They also had a retail shop on Main Street where they sold the chairs. They made the wood for the chairs in the factory, and then they did what was called caning for the seats. And I'm going to show you, this is one of John Coff's chairs here in the museum, and you can see the seat. That's called caning, and it was made out of natural fibers, and was a very skilled job to cane, is what they called it, those chairs. And that's just the process of weaving those into place to make patterns and be stable. This is an ad that was in a local newspaper for John Coff's furniture, his Lowell chair factory. And he did all sorts of different items in his factory. But like I said, he was particularly well known for making his chairs. He also made dressers. We have a dresser here in the Lowell Museum. But the chairs and the furniture are quite interesting, and they give a little insight into someone who lived here in Lowell and had a business here, and his house is still existing. But being able to share the story about someone who came to Lowell early in his life from another country, set up a business, set up a home, raised his family here, had a full life here in Lowell, and contributed to the growth of Lowell and the history that we have to share here in Lowell, is an interesting story. But it's even more interesting when we can share artifacts with you, and we can show you chairs that he physically made himself, show you pictures of his factory and his home and the advertising that he was doing in local history. It helps to make the biography come alive. It helps you to be able to picture what he looked like, what his business was, what that looked like. and kind of give you a fuller sense of the life of someone here in Lowell. So what we would like to have you do for your Biographies of Lowell project at home is we'd like you to write a biography of yourself. So we'd like you to draw a picture or find a picture of yourself that you can use. And we want you to write down for us, share the history of yourself. What makes you you? So what are your interests? What grade are you in school? You're obviously all in 3rd grade right now, but who's your teacher? What school do you go to? What are your favorite things? What do you like doing? What do you hope to be when you grow up? How has the school being temporarily closed affected you? Have you gotten to do anything fun? Have you done anything that you wish you didn't have to do? Tell us something about you and your history, and then draw a picture of an artifact that helps to describe you. If you were writing this letter to yourself in 50 years, what would you want to remember about who you are right now? What are you into? Are you into sports? Do you like doing arts and crafts? Do you have favorite shows that you like to watch? What about you right now should we remember? And it doesn't have to be a long biography. It can be just a couple of paragraphs or a page or a few sentences, whatever you'd like. But we want you to record for us what it is that makes you you, and don't forget to put your name on it so that we know who you are. And that will be your biography for the Museum Immersion 2020 program. It will be a biography all about yourself. And if you would like to share that with us, we would love to see your Lowell biography. And I'm going to put up on the screen here the email address that you can send it to share your biography with us. You can send it to the Lowell Area Historical Museum, and this is my email address. You can send it right to me. You can also share it with your teachers or however they'd like you to share it with your class. But we'd love to hear how you see yourself right now in 2020 in your Lowell biography, because you are a part of the Lowell community too. And so we want to know a little bit about you. That concludes our Lowell Biographies segment. I'd like to once again thank our sponsors, the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs and the Literacy Legacy Fund of Michigan. I'd really like to thank Lowell area schools and our teachers and principals for helping to make this program online possible. I hope that you're getting to learn a little bit about Lowell history and how museums work. And if you have any questions or would like any other information on Lowell topics, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to be able to share that with you. Thank you.